It is officially that time of year. It's August. We've been waiting a few months doing this show for this month or for the next month, the next 2 months as well. This is the fantasy basketball preseason. This is the perfect time to be doing redraft mocks. It's the perfect time to be doing dynasty mocks, dynasty startups, any sort of draft you can imagine. This is when the season starts. Sure, the regular season isn't going to start for another 2.5 months, but that's what makes it the perfect time to start. Now, sure, you're probably going to see more mocks than real startups for redraft leagues, but dynasty leagues have already started up. It's a great time to start them. We've had the draft done and over with. We've had summer league. We've gotten a taste of what some of these guys are going to look like, and we've had a couple weeks to think about it. Most of the transactions that the NBA is going to have this summer have happened. Like, sure, the NBA does randomly freak out sometimes and give us some fun moments much later than we were expecting. But for the most part, we kind of know what rosters are going to look like for next season. We're able to somewhat project what the next year is going to look like. So it allows us to start drafting teams with the right amount of knowledge. Now, that's not to say that you couldn't have already drafted teams. And some real sickos, and I'm not exempt from that, have fun doing your drafts as early as possible. You can do drafts before the rookie draft, dynasty startups where you're drafting Cooper Flag before you even knew he was going to be in Dallas. That stuff's fun. You could have already done your rookie draft the day or two after the actual NBA draft before Summer League. I did some of those. Those are fun. But now it probably is actually the right time to do some of this stuff and to actually take a look and make a smart draft pick every time. Now the information's in front of you. It's not just based off, well, I kind of like this guy. Ooh, I'm going to try and get on the value early. That it does take away from getting in on some of those guys earlier than now is possible. But now the information's all in front of us. So you can still get value, and it just might look a little different. So I've been participating in a dynasty startup draft. The league's called the International House of Hoops. There might be some talk about it. I might reference it on the show because honestly, shout out to the commissioner, Joe. He's doing a phenomenal job making this a really cool league. And I actually want to take a couple minutes, hopefully maybe not a couple full minutes, but just to talk about some of the things that he's doing to make this league very cool. He's already done, before the draft even started, 2 hype intro videos, piecing together different clips from like NBA highlights or information. So it's just fun content. We had to, this isn't something that's unique to this league, but making your team name like a city and a team name, like that's just adds a little bit of the flair, a little bit of fun to it. Owner intros, manager intros, just to kind of say, hey, this is who I am, this is where I'm from, this is what I like, just so everyone can get to know each other a little bit better. Those types of things, I think, create more community in a Discord or in any sort of group chat. And he's going to continue to create videos throughout the season, which I'm really excited about. Excited to see what he comes up with. It's already been fun so far. So if you're looking for ways to spice up your dynasty league and make it a little bit more fun, maybe invest some time in creating content. Everyone likes content creation. It could be you just sitting there giving a 2-minute summary of the past week. I know in other leagues I've played in, we've written like fake articles, just creating drama and beef between managers. Like that stuff's fun. Just go have fun with your dynasty league. That's my advice. Seeing Joe do it has been a little bit inspiring for me. So I'm going to try and do more stuff like that this upcoming year for my leagues, and it might spill into this show at times. But enough of the intro stuff. That was a little bit about this league. 18 teams. I believe it's going 13 rounds, so it's going to be 234 players drafted. I know we've talked, generally speaking, we're looking at about 300 players rostered for Dynasty League. So maybe we'll expand rosters in the future, but if not, no worries. We'll just have a little bit of a more active waiver wire in this league. Not that it's going to be super active because, what's that going to look like? But there'll probably be some players that are worth rostering out there on the waiver wire. But we also do have 2 minor slots. So you'll be able to stash some guys there, add some more guys. Should be all good. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pull up this draft board. Oh, and one other thing, it's all flex spots. So it's no position limits. We start 8 players, but it's all flex spots. So that plays even more into the team building. So this is what our Fantrax board looks like right now. It's not the whole draft because I'll have to scroll it over. But this is what we're looking with right now. So if you're watching, you're able to see it. If not, I'm going to go through all the picks. Do not stress at all. I was lucky enough to get the number 2 pick, and we had a 3rd round reversal. But I'm still pretty happy with the way my team has turned out so far. It obviously started off with Victor Wembanyama with the number 1 overall pick. Of course, that makes sense. Then I was able to get SGA at 2. Which I think is the right pick. It lines up with my unpublished Dynasty rankings that I will probably now publish after this league is done drafting, just to avoid totally giving up any insight, any picks. That way nobody can swipe off my board. Even though I feel like a lot of my opinions on players are pretty well documented at this point. So there shouldn't be too many surprising picks from me. Then it went Jokic at 3, Luka at 4. I think that makes the most sense. It's what it should be. Then we had Cade Cunningham at 5 and Cooper Flag at 6, which I think also lines up. And we've talked a number of times about Cooper Flag during the past 3 or 4 months since we started the show. Obviously Cooper Flag has been a big focal point. And our new partners over at FanDuel also have made him a pretty big focal point of their betting odds. You have a whole section on their page where you can bet on Cooper Flag lines. So you can bet on Cooper Flag to record a triple-double in any game this season. It's minus 115 for the odds there. You can bet on him to record 2 triple-doubles. You can bet on him to score 40 points in a game, 30 points in his first game, 15 or 20 plus double-doubles. There's a lot of different ways that you can bet on Cooper Flag, and it's really easy to do over at FanDuel Sportsbook over on their website. Be sure to check that out, especially if you're interested in drafting Cooper Flag in your Dynasty League. It makes a lot of sense that if you're going to stake your Dynasty team on Cooper Flag and him having a big rookie year or him developing, you can also put it in a little bit more to get in on the action in a different way and still show how much you believe in Cooper Flag. So this is a great place to go do that. Make sure to check that out. Like I said, Cooper Flag went 6th in this draft. Then we had a little bit more of a win now team here. I think that's the best way to put it. We went James Harden at 7, which again, more of a win now team, more win now pick. Wouldn't have been my choice at that point. I've Harden a good bit lower on my rankings, but should certainly be a competitive team this year. Then we had Anthony Edwards go with number 8, which makes sense. I have him 8th in my rankings. We had one player that's a little higher in my rankings slip a little bit, which we'll talk about here when we get to him. Jalen Williams went 9th. Trae Young 10th. Giannis Antetokounmpo went 11th. Another not tremendous reach, but I have Giannis ranked 14th in my Dynasty rankings, so not a reach, just a couple spots earlier, but definitely, certainly a win now pick there. Let's see if I can get this to slide over. After Giannis, we had Jaren Jackson Jr., then another more win now pick with Anthony Davis at 13. And then here's where I feel like was an incredible value pick here with Evan Mobley at 14 overall. I have Mobley 7th in my Dynasty rankings. I know I'm a little bit higher on Mobley than I think most. Probably most people would have him a few spots lower than 7, but probably still earlier than 14. Maybe you still do have some that have Evan Mobley around 14. But I'm really high on him. I think it was a great pick. Then we went Devin Booker at 15. After that, another really strong value pick with Chet Holmgren going 16th overall. I think that's incredible value. I have Chet ranked 9th. So getting him late in the first round of an 18-team league with a 3rd round reversal, I thought was a phenomenal pick. Slid back over. Maybe we're about to get a pick in here. We're gonna potentially get a pick live here on the draft. That's during this episode. That's so much fun. 17th, we had Karl Anthony Towns, and then Bam Adebayo wrapped up the end of this first round, which let's see. Some of the players that I think went a little bit too, we'll talk about, we'll stay positive. We'll talk about the value picks here, which I think I've mentioned most of them. Then I guess we can go the other way, maybe be slightly more negative without being too mean, because that's not my style. Harden pick was, I think, a touch early. Jalen Williams at 9. I have him at 11th. I think that's totally fine. Trae Young went 10th. I have him at 15. Again, I think totally fine, especially with, one, with how his second round went, which if you're able to see, then you're able to see it right now. But if not, we'll talk about it in a bit. Jaren Jackson Jr., I have at 25, so 12 was a touch early for me. I already talked about Anthony Davis being a bit early as well. Devin Booker, I have at 23. He went 15 in this draft. I don't think it's terrible, especially because, again, I think since this is a all flex spot league, there isn't too many issues with maybe reaching on a guy, because if you're going to build your team a certain way, it can work out really, really well, especially with a unique scorer like Devin Booker that can also do a number of other things. Karl Anthony Towns, I have at 20, and he went 17 here. And then Bam, I have a little bit later. I have him down at 39. I think I am a little bit lower on Bam than most, and he went 18th here. But I feel like most of the teams that, from my opinion, took someone a little early in round 1, they ended up getting much better value in round 2. So we cycle back through. This will be pick 19 was Donovan Mitchell. Then we had Alperen Şengün to pair with Karl Anthony Towns, and then Amen Thompson was another just phenomenal value pick. I have Chet and Amen Thompson at 9 and 10, and they went 16 and 21 in this draft. Okay. It's just going to keep scrolling over because we're going to keep getting picks made. That's fun. Hopefully this is great. Okay. So great value on Amen Thompson. Then we had Tyrese Maxey, which I also thought was a nice value pick. I have him ranked 19th. Then we went Paolo Banchero, and then Jalen Johnson. Jalen Johnson I have ranked 12th, and he went 24th in this draft. Incredible value. So, like I said, perhaps the Anthony Davis pick was a little earlier than what I prefer, but it's a win now move. It'll be a competitive team this year. Plus, you're getting Jalen Johnson, who I have ranked 12th overall, so it's a great value pick here. And Jalen Johnson should make this team very competitive this year. After that, we had Domantas Sabonis, then Scotty Barnes, which I thought was a great value pick. I have him ranked 21st, and he went 26th in this draft. Nice value there. The next one, which I mentioned, Trae Young went a little bit early, like a few spots earlier than I would have taken him, but not too much of an issue there. But second round, getting LaMelo Ball to pair with Trae Young, like, oh my goodness, that's a match made in heaven. To get that in a Dynasty league is pretty incredible, especially in an 18-team league. I have LaMelo ranked 13th, so I have LaMelo ranked ahead of Trae Young. So if you swap, I mean, you can leave him where it is. If you swap it, it's okay. You took LaMelo 3 spots early, which is totally fine. And then you got incredible value on Trae Young. So nice start to the draft there. After that, we had Dyson Daniels. Shout out to the GOAT. I mean, we love Dyson Daniels on this show. No secrets there. And we had Brandon Miller, Steph Curry to pair with James Harden. So again, very competitive win now team. Next was when things got a little interesting because Tyrese Halliburton was the next pick. So that was 31. So I have Tyrese Halliburton ranked at 17. And just to skip ahead a couple of picks, Jason Tatum went 3 picks later. So that would have been 34. And I have Tatum ranked 16th. So this was an interesting perspective for me because typically, especially when we've talked with Matt Lawson as well, like having Jason Tatum and Halliburton go in this range. Makes sense. And when I did a Dynasty mock draft last week or 2 weeks ago, and they both went around that same range, maybe a touch after. But now we put money on the line, and it's like, oh, now they're going to go a good bit later. So it's just an interesting perspective. I wouldn't have let them drop that far if I was on the other side of this board. But it's just interesting because other people are like, okay, no, we're starting out a new Dynasty league. I don't want to start off with a guy that just tore his Achilles. So it's interesting because maybe if you're already playing in your league, the price didn't go down too much to try and trade for Tyrese Halliburton or Jason Tatum. It went down a little bit, but maybe not as much because you're sacrificing a season and then they should be back. But now, okay, you're starting your team. It's a little different. They slip down to the 30s. So to me, those are two in just phenomenal value picks. I was hoping one of them was going to slide to me. Didn't end up happening. But it's just a nice perspective to enter your draft with. And maybe it's very different in a different Dynasty startup. I would be very curious to see what that looks like. Would love to see some more results from other Dynasty startups or Dynasty mocks from this offseason. So after Halliburton went 31, then we had Jalen Brunson, Franz Wagner, which I thought was a really nice value pick. I have him ranked 22nd. And then it went Tatum. And then I was able to get Dylan Harper, who I have ranked 29th, and I got him at 35, which was fine value for me. I think there was I think I had two players ranked a little higher, but I really wanted to lean in for the youth here and just keep my team young, but also still taking a player that I felt was a value pick for a Dynasty league. So I don't want to reach tremendously just because I like, a certain player. But I was fine because to me, so the two players I still have ranked ahead of Dylan Harper that I didn't take here were Darius Garland and Trey Murphy. So we'll see exactly how the rest of this draft plays out and exactly how I build my team. But I really wanted Dylan Harper in this draft. I got him. Cool. No big deal. This wasn't anything about fitting better next to SGA and the other two. This was just, I kind of want to get a rookie. So I was fine taking him over two players I've ranked higher because also at the same time, it was still a value pick for me. I have him 29th, took him 35th. Yeah, 35th. It's totally cool there. So that starts me off with SGA and Dylan Harper. And then we had Josh Giddey to wrap up round 2. I know I'm lower on Josh Giddey, but there are a lot of people that are very high on him and excited about, especially what he's going to do this season. I think I am also anticipating him to have a really strong year in redraft leagues. I still don't think that I'll end up being as high as other people because I've seen some mocks or some rankings that have him a good bit higher than I think I just would be willing to. But we'll see once we get closer to that season. And I actually am available to participate in some redraft mocks because that just hasn't worked out yet. So we're going to do the third round reversal, get back to the other side of the board, which started off with Pascal Siakam. And then we went Jamal Murray, Trey Murphy. So that was a nice value pick there. And I have Clayton in other leagues with me. He's the one managing this team. Just getting mad every time he picks because I'm like, he's just taking straight out of my queue. It's making me mad. Just phenomenal picks so far to start off with Chet Holmgren, Amen Thompson, and Trey Murphy. That's per my rankings for how I value players, 3 top 28 players and 2 top 10. So very envious of his start. All right. So after it went, if I get this to move back over, after Trey Murphy, it went Ja Morant. Oh my goodness, I'm losing my mind with this. Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, Darius Garland, Jalen Duren, Joel Embiid, Tyler Hero. I think that'll be enough. Okay. Goodness. So we're at least able to talk about these picks and we'll keep sliding me back down. I think that's happening every time someone enters the draft room, maybe. Pretty interesting for that to happen there. But just to say those again, after Trey Murphy went John Morant, Desmond Bane, Darius Garland, Jalen Duren, Joel Embiid, Tyler Hero. And I think the Embiid, the Darius Garland pick came after Jalen Johnson and Anthony Davis. So another really good value pick there, because I said I have Darius Garland ranked at 27th currently. So a nice value pick there. The Joel Embiid pick is the interesting one, because I'm a little bit lower, or actually a good bit lower in Joel Embiid. But obviously, if he's healthy, then it's going to be a really nice start to your draft to get Giannis, Scotty Barnes, and Joel Embiid. If Embiid's healthy, that's going to be a very, very competitive team next season. But there's a million questions about Embiid's health, and like, how healthy is he going to be? How productive is he going to be? Not just this year, how many games is he going to play in this upcoming season? Are they going to limit his minutes? And then beyond that, how does his body hold up? Does it get back to a point where maybe in a year or two, they're more comfortable playing him more minutes if they limit his minutes this year? Or I don't imagine we get to a point where he's playing back-to-backs consistently, but how many other rest days is he getting? So there's just a lot of question marks around Joel Embiid, which is why I wouldn't have taken him this early. But again, it's an upside swing. If he's healthy, then you get a few competitive seasons out of him. And it's going to be very difficult to beat that team this year. Okay, so next after that, we have Tyler Hero, which I think I already mentioned, and then Denny Avdia. This was the 46th pick. I think I have him pretty similar to that ranking. Yep, I actually have him right at 46, so nice pick there. Nice value to get him there. And then it has De'Aaron Fox, which I think was also pretty good value. I'll pull my rankings back up. I have him at 36. So nice value there on Fox. And we had Naz Reid, Alex Sarr, and I have Sarr at 41. So that was nice value. Ivica Zubac, Walker Kessler, Austin Reeves. And then I got Jaylen Brown, who I have ranked 38th, which I was pretty happy with Jaylen Brown here. It is kind of interesting because when they start up like this, I don't want to fully lean it. Like, you definitely could. You could play that strategy of, okay, I got, like, for example, you start off your draft with Trae Young and LaMelo Ball. Okay, you might as well lean into, especially with all flex spots, you might as well lean into that. You're going to get a ton of points. You're going to get a ton of assists. You're going to get a ton of threes. You should get a decent amount of steals. Free throw percentage should be good. But you're going to suck in field goal percentage and turnovers, frankly. And so there's no reason to invest like top tier picks in players that are going to specialize in field goal percentage or turnovers or rebounds or blocks, because, well, you're going to be elite in some other categories. So maybe you lean more into, that's what he did. The next pick was Tyler Hero. That fits in really well. That is a fine strategy. With me, I was just trying to go best player available per my Dynasty rankings and see how much value we can create, hoping that the trade market will be active in this league. I'm able to make some nice moves. I'm going to experiment with that, see how that goes. So Jaylen Brown is definitely a player that, if I want to be competitive this year, pairing him with SGA should be really good. But at the same time, if I choose to not be competitive this year, or enter more of a rebuild to try and go that angle, Jaylen Brown should hold strong trade value, because he should also be in for a really big season. Okay, and then after that, it wraps up with Jalen Green and then RJ Barrett. Two players I was fine with going there. They weren't this high on my board, but I was able, which allowed me to get Asar Thompson, who I have ranked 2 spots after Jaylen Brown, with the 40th overall pick. Obviously not his brother, but Asar Thompson has shown a ton of upside. Maybe not as good on the ball, but the steals, the blocks, the rebounds, the field goal percentage should be all really strong. And not even going to assume he improves his jumper at all. We're not going to bank on that whatsoever. But if it happens, and even remotely, to where he's like a 30% three-point shooter, that's an incredible player, incredibly impactful. It'll be hard to take him off the floor. Next, we had Miles Turner, and then VJ Edgecombe went, what is this? 58th overall. Thought that was really good value. I had him at 45, and I definitely considered him where I got Asar, but I was just higher on Asar by a few spots. So I wanted to stay true to my rankings in this scenario. And then after that, it went Onyeka Okongwu, then Khalil Ware, Mikal Bridges, Zion Williamson, Kobe White, Ace Bailey, and then Trey Johnson went, what is this? I got to be better. So 18 teams, 65th overall. And I have Trey Johnson ranked 82, which is totally fine, especially because he is a younger player. Take him as early as you want if you believe in him, because this is where it's going to be the most confusing how to rank some of these rookies. And I say that I have him 82, but I'm also a touch lower on Trey Johnson for dynasty leagues, for category leagues. But the upside is certainly there. The talent is there, and the opportunity is also there. It's a really good opportunity for Trey Johnson this season, which is why our partners at FanDuel have him as the second best odds to win Rookie of the Year. He's currently plus 800, obviously only behind Cooper Flagg. He's ahead of Dylan Harper. He's ahead of VJ Edgecombe. He's ahead of Ace Bailey. And a lot of that has to do with the opportunity. Dylan Harper is going to be behind a guy like De'Aaron Fox and Stephon Castle at first. VJ Edgecombe is going to be on a team with Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, Joel Embiid. Depending on health, depends on his opportunity to score the ball. Like, I assume VJ Edgecombe is going to play a lot, but he may not be a priority offensively early on. Ace Bailey should be in a similar scenario to Trey Johnson, but since I think, to me, we saw him less at Summer League, we saw him have a game where he struggled, and there is a lot of talent there, so it's not exactly clear what his role is going to look like. I imagine he starts, but then you still do have Lauri Markkanen in there to shoot a lot, so not exactly sure how that fits. So there's a reason that Trey Johnson is second overall on FanDuel's Rookie of the Year board, Rookie of the Year race currently. That's because we're all expecting a really big season out of him. So taking him with the 65th overall pick in your Dynasty startup, to me, totally fine there, even if it is a little bit ahead of where I have him in my Dynasty rankings. All right, so after Trey Johnson, we had Derek White, and then it went Kevin Durant. So Kevin Durant is paired with Anthony Davis, Jalen Johnson, and Darius Garland. So a very competitive team this year with also a couple of pieces that will help long term. After Kevin Durant, we had Donovan Clingan, OG Anunoby, Lauri Markkanen, Jordan Poole, Jarrett Allen to wrap up round 4. So we are 72 picks in. I thought Jordan Poole was a nice value pick, as was Lauri Markkanen. I have Poole ranked 56th and Markkanen at 50. So getting them both in the 70s I thought was really strong value. Yeah, we'll move on to round 5, which starts off with Jaden McDaniels, then goes Scoot Henderson, Kyrie Irving, Josh Hart, Manuel Quickley, LeBron James, Miles Bridges, Stephon Castle. LeBron is a player that I have consistently been lower on in Dynasty rankings over the last couple of years, which is really since I started making them. And it's just such a interesting thing because I currently have LeBron outside 110. I don't remember exactly where I've had him every Dynasty ranking I've made, but like pretty similar. So I have it all pulled up right here. I think I can go back to December of 2023 and let's see where I have LeBron. Yikes, that is not finished at all. So I guess January of 2024 is where we're going. I had LeBron 107. So like that was January of 2024. This is a year and a half later. And I have him down 3 spots. And it's an interesting place to have him because at one point, this is going to be, I think, 2 seasons after that, because that was halfway through the 2023-2024 season. Then we've had a whole season in between, and now he's obviously older, but he's still so productive. But it's like, this could be his last NBA season. And you can say that every year for the last couple of years. Like, it's possible this is his last NBA season. There's nothing official, but it could be. So how early do you take a guy where potentially he gives you one season in a dynasty league? And sure, that one season might be more productive than any season you get from anybody else for the rest of this draft, but it might only be one of them. So, like, would you rather have one LeBron James season or potentially 15 Knippel seasons? Like, Con may never reach what LeBron does next year, statistically. And I think he could have a very successful career and never reach what LeBron does just next season. And that's okay. But what would you rather have for your dynasty league? I think it just depends on team. LeBron's a guy where if you took him, what was this? 78th overall, and you wanting to win next season, go for it. It's way higher than I have on my rankings, but I don't care. Go for it. If you think you're going to win next year, do it. After that, Miles Bridges, then Stephon Castle, Jalen Suggs, who I currently have. Where do I have Jalen Suggs? 71. So that was a nice value pick there. Then Modest Buzelis, Zach LaVine, who I have at 68. Nice value. DeMar DeRozan, Reed Shepherd, who I have at 63. I was really hoping that he was going to fall to me at the end of round 5. Didn't end up happening. And then after that went Knippel, who I have at 75. Nice value there. Derek Lively, who I have at 52. That was the one I was really thinking. I was like, oh, shoot. Derek Lively might slip to me here, which would be really strong value comparison to my dynasty rankings. Excited to see what he can do in Dallas next year with this whole team the way it is, Then we had Brandon Ingram. I got Devin Vassell at 89, and I have him ranked 64th. So I was really happy with that pick. And then we had at 90, Mark Williams, which I thought was really good value. I'm trying to find where I have him in my rankings. I actually have him at 90, so maybe it was perfect value. Not really good value, but strong value. Good pick. And then Isaiah Hartenstein, who I have at 76, he went 91. Nice value there. Then my most up-to-date pick, because we're in the early stages of round 6, I got Tari Eason. This was at 92, and I have him at 74, so that was really good value for me. And then DeJounte Murray, who I have at 77, went 93. And then Nikola Topic, who I have at 87, just went 94. So nice value there. Yeah, that's where we are through 5 rounds plus a little bit of a 13-round draft. So I'll probably talk about this again in a week or so when this draft is hopefully all finished, and maybe continue to provide updates on this league if it's an active one, so that we can talk about that. Have other drafts and mocks in the process, either already started or working on details for stuff, so that should provide some more very real content. But this was a nice exercise for me because it was my first Dynasty startup of this cycle. I'm trying to remember which Dynasty startups I even had last year. So maybe it's been 2 years since I've done an actual Dynasty startup, now that I'm thinking about it. No, did do one last year as a Debbie League. Cool. But this was a good exercise to see like where players would actually go and like who people would be willing to put their money on and where they'd put their money on certain players. So still a lot of talent here on the board. I'm not going to say my best available or anything because I'm hoping that they make it back around to me, even though it is 30 more picks. So I'm not super optimistic. But this was interesting to be able to see this, how this plays out. So just to, I guess, recap my team, started off with SGA, then went Dylan Harper, Jaylen Brown, Asar Thompson, Devin Vassell, and Tari Eason. 6 players in my top 75, so I'm can't be too mad about the start. And it'll be interesting to see what type of trades we can make after this draft ends. That's going to do it for this episode of the Young Man Squad Fantasy Basketball Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at NoRuben22. One, I guess, other thing is we'll be doing a Q&A with Matt Lawson tomorrow. I'm not sure if it's going to be live yet. I think if we get enough questions, we probably won't. So make sure, I've tweeted it out. Make sure to comment on that tweet any Dynasty related questions you have, or just general fantasy questions are fine too. But if you don't have Twitter or don't want to tweet about it, you can comment it on this video. I'll collect those questions as well. So any Dynasty related questions, be sure to comment them below. I will collect them. We will talk about them with Matt so you can get two perspectives. As I said, other mocks and leagues in the works, doing the Dynasty 30 rookie draft right now, it's a Dynasty league with 30 analysts. Also working on starting up just a slow draft Dynasty mock with Dynasty analysts and other fantasy analysts to hopefully get some more unique perspectives and just perspectives on drafts. And that's just going to be a basic 9-cat head-to-head one, but I'm hoping to, as soon as that one's done, start working on like a points league or a larger league or smaller league, or maybe like a roto style. Not sure exactly how it's going to work. Probably some other sort of auction draft at some point for a mock to see if we can make that happen. So yeah, a lot of content here that it will probably be more real, applicable content, as well as just the other stuff that we have been doing. And then I have another league that I'm working on creating that I don't want to say too much about right now, but it should be really cool if we can pull it off the way that I'm hoping to. Should create some incredible content for everyone to get a really good perspective on a lot of different things. If it works out the way I want it to, but we'll see. When updates are available on that, I will provide them. But that's going to do it for this episode, which, of the Young Man Squad Fantasy Basketball Podcast, part of the Old Man Squad Network, which is part of Believe Network and brought to you by FanDuel. So that's going to do it. And I will see you guys next time.